Welcome to episode 200 of Empty the Bench on the Empty the Bench podcast network. Yes, big 200th episode. Make sure you follow us on social media at ETB Sports, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at ETB Sports. Follow us across the Empty the Bench podcast network at ETB Network, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Make sure you follow us on YouTube and subscribe, youtube.com/ETB Network, 530 subscribers as we speak. Make sure if you want to take our podcast on the go and you don't want to watch the episode, make sure you go to Acast, Spotify, Apple, iHeart, any other platform. You can find us on audio as well. ETBpodcast.com. Our content has picked up on our blogs, a lot of NFL content, a lot of entertainment content, and just a lot of more information up there as well.
I do have to correct you, by the way, as I seem to do every week here on Empty the Bench. It is no longer called Twitter. It is now known as the X.
Screw you, Elon Musk. I don't care about your X. But
As X gonna give it to you.
Yeah, really. All right, a lot to get into this week. A lot to get into this week on big episode 200. Aaron Rodgers, done for the season.
Aaron Rodgers can just, if the season is done for him, so he's going to root for his team from the couch, he can just simply...
R-E-L-A-X. Damn it! Also, Joe Burrow, record contract. He was injured earlier on in the preseason. Gets a bag. We'll get into that as well.
He gets a bag and he plays like crap during
week one. Yeah. Also, we'll get into the Thursday Night Football pick as we do every week on this show. Michigan State coach Mel Tucker suspended. We have more allegations of sexual misconduct. Also, one of the biggest reporters in college sports is wrong. Never thought I'd have to say that. Also, as Hank from Hitting for the Cycle would say, Hell's Angels. Yes, we will get into the Angels. A lot going on in the world of LA. Also, Stephen Strasburg and the retirement debacle, and just, it's a mess. And then some NBA stuff. Kevin Porter Jr. arrested in New York. He's the Houston Rockets guard for allegedly assaulting his girlfriend. And apparently, girlfriend's ex's brother says some horrible things. We'll get into that as well. Also, the NBA Board of Governors updates a rule, and I'm actually going to give Adam Silver credit.
What?
Yes.
What? You're actually going to give Adam Silver some credit? So since this is 200 episodes, and I should have done something a little bigger at the start to emphasize the fact that it's 200, and the fact that Adam Silver, you're actually going to praise that man? Hold on.
Yes, you will hear that later on. And, of course, if it wasn't enough, and that's Adam Silver calling, saying that he's angry at me.
And then, of course, we have DraftKings, who came under fire for, well, perhaps one of the most stupid... I cannot believe. Who let that parlay pass through? Who?
Yeah, that was bad. We'll get into... where, why, how, who, what, when, where, why, how, with the whole fiasco with DraftKings.
Well, let's start with a major story. It's a major episode. A major story should go with it. And Nick, remember when you made reference to, just when they pulled me back out, just when I thought it was out, they pulled me back in. Well, they pulled you back in, and they made you a sucker again. So,
God damn it!
Aaron Rodgers plays 4 snaps. So the Bills, Jets-Bills, Monday Night Football. Bills get the ball first. They don't do anything with it. So possession now comes with Aaron Rodgers, who made an incredible entrance, by the way, 9-11 game, and running out with the American flag, goes onto the field, on the 4th snap, takes a pretty gnarly kind of hit. Gets up. He's a little shaken, but okay. And then, almost like a delayed reaction, goes down, holds his leg, and as it turns out, his Achilles is done, and now so is Aaron Rodgers. 4 plays, all of less than 10 minutes of field time, and Aaron Rodgers That's his 2023 season.
Yeah, I don't know how to react. By the way, the buzzword that they used after the injury was reverberated. His Achilles reverberated, and I was like, this is not a guitar. Like it's an Achilles injury. And I was just like, oh, there goes the season. It reminds me of the Family Guy was episode with Stewie sitting at the Met game.
Yeah, and the season's over.
Oh man. And I'm
But
just
guess
like,
what? You
yeah.
don't have anything to worry about. Your Jets, they can still do something because once again, the starting quarterback for the Jets is the man they've tried to get away from with Zach. Hey, can I date your mom, Wilson? Hey, wait a minute. Oh, wait. Oh, it is your music. That's great. Where is it? Oh, I'm sorry. There you go.
I mean, it's a circus. I mean, my brother and I were watching the game on Monday night, and we watch as this injury goes down, and I'm like, we just had we have a great team. We have a Super Bowl caliber. Let's try that again. Defense, and the quarterback goes down. Now, you could back me up on this. I said that it was going to be a massive risk bringing in a 39-year-old quarterback.
Yes, but also at the same time, you can also kind of blame the Jets organization a little bit for waiting and being so focused on Rodgers that, Derek Carr went to the Saints. But I guess it was a high risk, high reward scenario because Aaron Rodgers. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want to say, disrespect any of the other quarterbacks that were out there during, that open market, including one Derek Carr. But Aaron Rodgers had the playoff experience, has been to the Super Bowl. And, we made a joke that it was the New York Packers when he was bringing in the likes of Cobb and Lazard and such.
Yeah, it was.
But at the same time, we looked at this team on paper, and Nick, you can back me up on this on the NFL preview show. We said that the AFC East was going to be absolutely loaded, was going to be an action-packed division, and now this hurts that. This is not just devastating. I mean, this is really devastating for the New York Jets, but this is devastating for the NFL. You were promoting the kind of competitive division that the AFC East could be, and now one of its stars, and the guy who made one of the biggest headlines in this past offseason, and Aaron Rodgers, is now done with an injury.
The whole playbook was built around Aaron Rodgers. Nathaniel Hackett was brought in because of Aaron Rodgers. All these guys, Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb, were brought in because of Aaron Rodgers. Okay, let's try this again. Why were all the moves made? Why were all the moves made by the New York Jets? For who?
Oh, I know for who. For, where is it? This man.
RELAX.
Ding! Give the man a prize. I mean, but this is so ridiculous. I mean, the season is over. It's over. It's like, I don't even care. It's over.
But did you at least get some sort of satisfaction and gratitude for the way that they still won on Monday night? Because the defense still played well, held Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and company with the Bills to 17 points. I mean, the amazing walk-off punt return touchdown during overtime. The defense held the Bills off. And then, what'd you say? I'm sorry.
No, the walk-off punt return. And also, Whitehead, 3 picks in the same game. Did you realize that in his contract he had an incentive for $250K for 3 interceptions the whole season?
He got it all in one game.
This man worked harder than the Buffalo Bills offense.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There is some sort of sense of victory in this because I do have questions about the Bills after the fact that they let Zach Wilson led Jets team to defeat the Bills, but at the same time, like I get your sentiment. I get your sentiment only because you won me over last season because I think back to that Week 16 game where if they had beaten the Jaguars, they could have had a shot at making the wild card. And then Zach Wilson just kind of crapped the bed. So I do get your concerns. But at the same time, the biggest thing that you guys have is your defense. Now, don't get me wrong. Brees Hall, Dalvin Cook, excellent running back combo. Both still on the way back to being in full strength from one, a late signing, an August signing, and an injury, respectively. Um, and then Garrett Wilson, like you said, I'm surprised they didn't air it out to Garrett Wilson as much as they should have in that game.
No, you know what that is? That's that they don't trust Zach Wilson to throw the football because that's not the game. It's ground and pound. You noticed towards the second half of last season, it was all run plays. It was mostly ground and pound ball. This goes all the way back to 2010 and 2011 when they made the AFC Championship games with Rex Ryan. It was all ground and pound, and it doesn't work. I mean, it worked for them to get to the playoffs and win an AFC Championship, but it's not going to win major games past that.
And the only other thing is, I'm not going to put all the fault in the world on Zach Wilson, only because where was that offensive line? I thought the Giants' offensive line looked like trash on Sunday, and the Jets were maybe not that level, but we were still pretty bad. And I'm sorry, Mekhi Becton is just
That was bad.
Talk about a guy who has not lived up to his draft potential.
Yeah, that was bad, and that's part of the reason why Aaron Rodgers actually got hit, because it was kind of an offside hit. And Aaron Rodgers apparently
that was Becton's guy, and he didn't do his job.
Right. And the other issue is apparently Aaron Rodgers came out and said that he doesn't like the offside defensive plays when they call them for on the offensive side. And
I did see that, and they didn't listen. And guess what? They paid a price now.
But the same thing is, if he had a torn Achilles, and it didn't even look like a massive, massive injury, like a car crash, like where you get hit. So that must have been brewing somewhere at some point, that he was either not in full shape, not healthy. He's 39 years old. He's had collarbone injuries. He's had sprains. He's had everything. Eventually, this probably was going to happen. If it didn't happen now, it could have happened like 3-4 games from now. I don't know which one would have been worse, by the way, but it's a problem. And Robert Saleh, you know how often usually you don't get an answer from the head coach after a game? He came out and said, oh, well, the X-ray was negative. That happens in every stadium, by the way, when you go into the X-ray inside the stadium.
But he admitted that it didn't look good, and you could see the motion on his face.
No, that's my point. Like, after the negative X-ray, he's like, but it doesn't look good. And like, that's when you knew the season was over. You knew. And by the way, I need to address some of the stuff on social media where people were saying they're playing TV doctor right after the injury happened, including Ryan Clark, who for ESPN, who said, "Oh, it's a broken leg." And blah, blah, blah. Are you a doctor? Are you a doctor? Do you know anything?
I mean, I get the years of NFL experience, but yeah, you need a medical professional in there. Now, to your point of the season is over, I don't necessarily want to believe that, only because there is still that fighting chance. But it's like what I told you just before we started hitting that record button. At this point, the Jets, to have the kind of success that we thought they could have had this season, it's going to have to be along the lines of that 2000-2001 Ravens team and 12-13 Ravens team that won the Super Bowls. It's going to have to be a defense or bust season, as you put it.
Well, I'll tell you right now, any chances of them being at the AFC level for the title is not happening. It's over. Like, they're now going to have to get in probably in a wild card situation now. Because they just don't have the power.
Right, which was still a possibility, even because of how competitive the AFC East is. It was a possibility before when Aaron Rodgers was quarterbacking, but like Sauce Gardner, I mean, remember we talked about the idea of some of the sophomores here in New York City, like Sauce on the Jets, Kayvon Thibodeau. Like, all of a sudden now, like, it was for Sauce, the pressure was, okay, let's not have a sophomore slump. Let's continue to build. We gave him Defensive Player of the Year, caliber, in our early predictions. And now all of a sudden, the pressure the size of a house is now on his back.
Well, first of all, and I know we're not talking about the Giants now, but like, you can't lose 40-0 on opening night. That just looks bad. But at the same time, you asked me before, and I'll answer it now. Do you give them credit for the victory? Yeah, they won the game, but it's kind of a secondary afterthought when Aaron Rodgers goes down 4 plays in the game.
I
And
know. I'm just saying it's like they say the thrill and the agony, and that's exactly what that game was. It was the other way around. It was the agony first, and then there was the thrill later.
don't get me wrong, Josh Allen had a terrible second half, like really bad. 3 picks, a fumble, which cost them the game, or should have cost them the game. Somehow the Bills managed to drive down and get that tying score, and the Jets just wet the bed on the last drive for whatever reason. At least they were in overtime. But I don't know. Was it a good win? Yeah. Is it more important than the injury? No. And all these quarterbacks are talking about, like, Tim Boyle's not going to come in and save this damn team. Okay? I don't care how much Aaron Rodgers liked him. Okay? And by the way, the reports of Colin Kaepernick, get that out of here. It's not happening.
New York is not going to want that. New York is not going to want that media storm that will come its way if Kaepernick is signed. Imagine what some of the local and national radio and television programs would be like if that happened.
It won't even just be sports. It'll end up being on national news programs if he's back.
Also, just from a football perspective, yeah, you're gonna, with all the Super Bowl expectations of that team, you want a guy who hasn't played in the league in 7 years. Yeah, that's a good idea.
That's real brilliant. Like Woody Johnson, I'm going to steal from Johnny, by the way, because this is a joke that he makes all the time, and I agree. Woody Johnson's Super Bowl is beating the Giants. That's his Super Bowl. Okay, and ironically, this is the 4th year, so they're playing this year. So he's gonna be like, "That's my Super Bowl. I won." If they win, obviously, but
well, I think they would. I think they certainly would have won if Aaron Rodgers is their quarterback. Now it's a complete toss-up already heading into October 29th.
I'm gonna have to go find a coin and flip it at this point. But all in all, it's bad. He's got a torn Achilles. He's done for the year. The reports are that he wants to come back and play next year. And you know, the Jets will desperately take him back with open arms at 40 years old.
Yeah, but also that he does not want his career to end.
That's why.
He's not going to want it to end like that. He's going to want, not everybody gets to have the John Elway or Peyton Manning experience where they go out a Super Bowl champion. But at the same time, you would rather play your heart out rather than have your career end with an injury. Now, obviously, you can make some of the cases like a Brady or such, which, by the way, before we wrap things up with this topic, let's talk about this season. So they have thrown out some possible names out there. You mentioned Kaepernick. There's Matt Ryan. The problem with Matt Ryan, because I remember advocating for Matt Ryan if the Aaron Rodgers deal had fallen through. The problem is not only is it the matter that he's now with CBS commentating, but the reason he's with CBS in the broadcast booth is because he cannot announce retirement or sign with another team. If something like that happens, the Colts can ask back for all the money that they are still paying for him after they cut him. So
he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, so Matt Ryan's like, and also Matt Ryan now has as I just mentioned, a comfy job in the broadcast booth. Tom Brady has something similar, and it has the ownership stake in the Raiders. Why would these older quarterbacks, take the chance to go back out on the field? Brady already did to prove Schefter wrong, and that was probably one of the worst seasons.
It backfired,
right?
I mean,
and he ruined his personal life in the meantime too.
And you know what? I need to call out Mike Tannenbaum, and we forgot about this too, because Mike Tannenbaum is basically saying, hey, you know what? Why don't we call out all these guys? And I'm trying to find the tweet because I can't find it at the moment. But it was such a ridiculous tweet. Oh, here it is. Look into a trade for Matt Stafford or Jameis Winston. You know what you're going to have to give up for Matthew Stafford?
Right. Yeah, I don't think the Rams are going to be willing to give up their starting quarterback. I know the Rams are not as strong as they were, but, maybe the likes of, Paku Nakau and Tutu Atwell might have given them a little fire under them. Hopefully, now Jameis is interesting because he's still with the Saints, I believe. So Derek
Yes.
Carr is the quarterback there. Taysom Hill is kind of like that emergency QB who's inactive and waiting in the wings for the other two to go to. He could, however, we've seen Taysom Hill quarterbacks, so you could ultimately get another backup quarterback, hopefully, if you're the Saints, and then maybe get some trade. But again, what are the Jets going to have to give up? The other name out there, Nick, do the Jets want to take a ride on the Joe Flacco experience again?
No. He was sitting on the bench behind Zach Wilson.
Elite Joe Flacco.
I mean, Tenenbaum, and who's been the GM of the Jets and the Dolphins for many years, like some of the statements he made were just totally asinine in every way, shape, or form. Call Tom Brady's agent. It's very like he's not coming back.
No,
he's not coming back.
If he had hinted it earlier in the offseason, if he had given that tease TB12, then I probably would have said, yeah, maybe. But the fact that he went and got the ownership stake in the Raiders and there was no such indication, like we just said, it backfired on him last season. And yet he still won a division title because the NFC South was, in my opinion, still is quite shite. So at this point, that he did all he could. Don't risk it again, TP.
You want to know what Mike Tenenbaum's opinions are worth?
Is it
they're worth? They're worth the amount of Super Bowls he's won as a GM. 0.
Oh, hold on a minute. I actually have a sound effect that we should play for that one.
Shots fired! Shots fired!
Am I wrong? He's won none. And he keeps going off and firing these hot takes that mean nothing. All right, move on.
Okay. Let's talk about a different quarterback. Joe Burrow. Ladies and gentlemen, the winner and new highest paid player in NFL history, because this just bounces around every year between the quarterbacks. It is Joe Burrow. 5 years, $275 million extension, $219.01 million of it guaranteed.
As soon as he signed, that money goes to him.
And as soon as he signed the extension, the Bengals managed to crap the bed against the Browns in week 1.
Which, and people are saying like, oh, it's week 1. It was rainy weather. All right. We need to...
Okay, no, because I need to, as the guy who is always, don't disrespect the Bengals, I'm just going to flat out say it. There's no way he's 100% healthy. He is.
Thank you. Someone finally freaking agrees with me that they rushed him back on the field. And you know what? It's going to impede this year, and it might impede next year.
He's definitely playing through some sort of injury. Now, I give credit to his toughness. At the same time, because he's kind of, I guess, in my opinion, hurt, it ruined his performance. It ruined the performance of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I mean, how is it that Tyler Boyd, plays just as much? I mean, now I don't want to disrespect Tyler Boyd, but I just think from the fantasy perspective, Tyler Boyd was on people's waiver wires.
It's true.
Running to grab him at this point.
Here's what I don't get. I think I said it to you when we did our pre-show meetings. The reason he rushed back, he wanted that contract. He wanted to make sure he was signed, that he was on the dotted line. He's got his long-term deal. He's got his guaranteed money.
The Herbert and the Chargers blinked first, so that opened up the opportunity for Burrow, but he didn't want to pass that up.
These quarterbacks are not worth the money that they're being paid. They're not. I'm sorry. Herbert is not worth what he got paid. Burrow's not worth what he got paid. There's only one quarterback that's worth what he got paid. And we all know who that is.
And that is?
Patrick Mahomes.
Yes, absolutely. But now here's my question. Because now we know what Patrick Mahomes is getting paid, Burrow, Herbert, and all of them. What's going to happen when Trevor Lawrence comes up for a contract extension? Could you imagine what he's going to get?
And I'm going to yell and scream when that number comes out. Because, one, and we say this about baseball, it's like these are baseball contracts, what we're looking at right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why do you think it's so impossible to afford tickets to a game? We can't go. We can't afford the damn tickets. We can't afford the damn concessions or the chicken tender buckets, as Hank would say, inside the stadium. So these contracts are going to get worse. First of all, this is going to hurt the NFL more than any other sport, because what does the NFL rules have that other sports don't?
I'm sorry?
What does the NFL follow that other leagues don't?
What?
The cap.
Yeah, the cap.
So if you're going to keep giving away, 70, 80% of your cap to the quarterback, what are you going to do? That's the biggest issue here.
All right. Coming up on the halfway point of this show already, we're going to talk about some Thursday Night Football action. Week 2. It's the Vikings. My Vikings taking on the Eagles. Yes, it's my secondary team. It is my family team of the Vikings, and they have to go against one of the teams that I cannot stand, the Philadelphia Eagles. I shouldn't even say that because Jalen Hurts is my quarterback in a couple of fantasy leagues, and I have some investments in Brown and Smith, so I can't even say that because they are doing pretty. I mean, last year they helped me win a championship. Jalen Hurts did. So, but regardless, the Eagles are 6.5 point favorites, and I love the Vikes. At the same time, the reason they lost that game to Baker Mayfield and company was because Kirk Cousins played like shite in that first quarter.
Oh, stop sugarcoating. Just say the damn word. He played like shit.
I used the word. I just used a different pronunciation of it.
I mean, you got embarrassed by Baker Mayfield. Okay? Baker Mayfield!
And the worst part is, Madison showed his talent. Jordan Addison had an excellent touchdown, great grab. Justin Jefferson, well, he is him, as the kids say these days.
Oh, that's a Hank line. Yeah.
Right. Ultimately, the loss comes down to one person, and that is Kirk Cousins. And for that, and I don't want to discredit the Eagles defense, because if you couldn't handle the Bucks, how are you going to handle that powerhouse that is Philadelphia? Now, granted, Philadelphia didn't look strong this week. Philadelphia let up on New England, and it became a closer game than it should have been. So there is definitely some concern around Philadelphia. But you know what? I did say on the preview show, Philadelphia is the best team in the NFL for a reason. That there's the Eagles, there is certain teams in the NFC, then there's 50 feet of crap, and then there is the Arizona Cardinals, the Washington Commanders, who I think are the two worst teams in the NFL.
And they're playing this week, aren't they? Or is that the Denver Broncos? Okay, either one is fine.
My point that despite all the concerns, I still believe in Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. They are still one of the best, if not the best, quarterback wide receiver combos in the NFL. I can actually say the best now, considering that Travis Kelce, we still don't know if he's going to be healthy and ready to go for week 2. So that means, and then of course the defense. The Eagles defense always seems to come through at points this season. So as much as I love the Vikes, I think this is a very easy one where I say take the money.
Yeah, so I was telling Tom that I was kind of going through. I decided that for our Football Friday, which you can see on Friday at noon Easter, I'm going to actually get involved in some of betting on DraftKings. I'm going to look at one or two games. I'll put them out on as lines and spreads, and we can do videos for that. Philadelphia was the one that I was looking at, and if it wasn't Thursday night, I was going to lock on it, because Philadelphia is going to be a lock for a lot of people throughout the season. Now, like you said, they were a little concerning offensively. The defense kept them afloat. That was my lock this for week 1. Thank God that they didn't blow it. I still like Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts is going to be up there in the top 3 quarterbacks this year in terms of yardage, in terms of touchdowns. I mean, it also helps when you have A.J. Brown, guys like that are catching the football. But yeah, the Vikings. I'm going to give you the Johnny Montalbano checklist because this is what we do all the time. Okay, is it a primetime game? Yes. What else is on that list?
It's Thursday night or Monday night.
Oh, is it? Well, right. Is it prime time? Yes. Is it? I don't know. Is it a dominant team? Yes.
Yeah. It's a high pressure, high stakes game.
High pressure, high stakes situation.
Well,
Yeah.
I shouldn't say high stakes because it's still week 2, but it's 2 of, at least in my opinion, the better teams in the NFC. I get where you're going with this. This is the prime time where Kirk Cousins does not show up.
Take the money. Now, I had them locked in at 7 because I did it earlier before, but 7, 6.5, they're going to win by double digits probably. So that's where I see that.
All right, one other football story, more on the college level. Michigan State coach Mel Tucker has been suspended with pay. He is currently under Title IX investigation due to some serious allegations of sexual misconduct. The original report from Brett McMurphy was that he was fired. That is not entirely true. He is suspended. He is still getting paid by the university. But Nick, if the allegations about Mel Tucker prove to be true, then it probably will not be long before Mel Tucker is officially dismissed.
Yeah, again, it seems like these stories always seem to find our episode, our show. Tough situation for Michigan State. It looks like his future's in doubt now. Brett McMurphy did a no in the world of journalism, as you would say, and jumped the gun before the official report was actually made.
I think it goes to the conversation we had that maybe his source was the one who was wrong, but Brett McMurphy, being the public figure, he's gonna take the hit.
That's true. I didn't even think about that, but it says if I can find some of the report here.
For those who don't know the full story, I'm going to read from CBS Sports. Michigan State coach Mel Tucker responded on Monday to allegations that led to his suspension in the almost two-page document released by attorney Jennifer Z. Belville. Tucker claims that his encounters with Brenda Tracy, a prominent activist against sexual violence, were, quote, mutual and, quote, private. Tucker and Tracy engaged in, quote, dozens of calls from fall 2021 to winter 2022, many of which Tucker claims were initiated by Tracy late at night. Tucker claims Tracy, quote, encouraged our personal relationship by, quote, inviting and accepting gifts from me. The gifts allegedly included shoes, Venmo payments, and a contribution to Tracy's nonprofit organization. I'm trying to find the full details because I guess this is just focusing on Mel Tucker's.
Well, this sounds like a pay for play scenario a little bit here.
Here's the story from CNN and USA Today. Tucker is alleged to have made sexual comments and, well, I'm not going to say the next word, but it begins with M, while on a phone call with Brenda Tracy. Tracy reported the call to the university's Title IX office.
Now, if they have him on record with all this stuff, then there's no defending the guy.
This is not, like, I kind of get why. I know you were talking about the journalism note, but I kind of get the Brett McMurphy's source being wrong and jumping to that because the way those allegations and claims are looking, yeah, it looks like it's not going to be long before this turns into.
I understand, but at the same time, you got to get the facts correct before you announce someone is fired.
I'm not saying that. That definitely is a shame, and he didn't get the facts right. I'm just saying, I mean, shame, but at the same time, bigger shame on Mel Tucker for doing such a thing, and it's not going to be long before this suspension with pay is going to turn into a dismissal.
And I'm trying to look. So it says he was hired by Michigan State in 2020. And the following year, he signed a 10-year, $95 million contract extension. So he just fairly recently signed. So let's see, we're 3 years in. So he's got seven years left.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Like, that's a large contract to deal with. So,
But again, and I'm gonna say this on about another story later. We need more. I'd say there probably are there in the contract, but we need more emphasis on morale clauses. That if you do something stupid like this, or you do something stupid like the Kevin Porter story we'll talk about later, the teams and the leagues can go, okay, the rest of your pay, nope, we're taking that back now.
well, I said that a long time ago, like the whole thing with Fernando Tatis Jr. of the Padres, like which was probably one of the better clips of our show of all time. But my point is that he should have been cut on the spot with the motorcycle stuff and the PEDs.
Listen, I get where you're going with that, but I think a better example with this would be before that, Trevor Bauer, when he had those allegations against him that after he had signed with the Dodgers, and I mean, look where he is now, playing in the minor league in Japan.
Well, there was actual physical evidence that was involved in Trevor Bauer, so that's why he's no longer in baseball or Major League Baseball. Let me clarify, because the evidence was there. We had I can't remember what was the guy's name again from NBC LA. But
I'll look it up.
But he was on our show and he really nailed that story to a T, like saying that there was physical evidence and that there were pictures and there were scars and all this stuff. Like there was physical evidence to put him away forever in that regard. So we don't know if there's physical attribution going on here, if they're claiming that it was conversational calls that, oh, well, it's a he said, she said debate at this point in time.
Well, it's also the accusation that he, I'm not going to say the word, but let's say did something very nasty as part of those calls.
Yes. No, and let me be very clear. I'm not putting him off the hook. I'm far from doing that. But I want to make sure that all the facts are in line before we destroy a man's career.
Oh, wait. By the way, was it it was Duarte, Michael Duarte.
Yes, that's who it was. Yeah.
NBC Sports.
Yes. And so I want to make sure we get all the facts correct, because you've said this to me many times way back when. It's better to be accurate than it is to be first.
All right. Let's get out of the football realm. Let's move over to baseball. A report has come out that I think we kind of talked about this last week, that apparently Mike Trout and Los Angeles Angels management are going to have a sit down at the end of this season. And let's be clear, this season has been an absolute disaster. And apparently, according to a report, the Angels may be open to trading Mike Trout should he request it. And Nick, I know what you're going to say about the contract and such. I'm going to tell you what this is. And I'm going to... See, I can't impersonate Artie Moreno because I can't really get a hold of his voice like I can do Jerry Jones. Here's what it is. But I'm going to tell you here's what it is. Oh, crap. I just went all in. It backfired. I'm now about to lose arguably the greatest player in this game for absolutely nothing. We're going to have to probably do some sort of major 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year long rebuild. I need to get some stars some top prospects in my system because I already effed up because I didn't trade Shohei Ohtani when I could have for 2 trade deadlines. Sure, Mike. I guess whatever we can get. That's what the point this is. Like, I get where we're gonna talk about with the contract and such, but Artie Moreno is gonna be a desperate man at this point.
I mean, the contract is an albatross. I mean, that is for sure. I think he still has like 7 years left on the contract at like $35 million a year, which is an albatross in a lot of ways. Well, first, I need to describe the Angels in one way.
In the words of DJ Khaled, congratulations, you played yourself.
I mean, the Angels are a mess. And you know what? I don't blame Mike Trout. First of all, and I think Hank said it on Hitting for the Cycle last week, that who was the one that put their name on the contract?
Mike Trout.
Mike Trout. Who wanted the large contract? Mike Trout. So now he shouldn't have signed there. Let's just be real. He never should have signed there. He could have had his choice to go anywhere when he was a free agent. Whether it was New York, Dodgers, Giants, Philly. By the way, I still think that would be great. Bryce Harper and Mike Trout on the same team.
On the same team, yeah. I know. Well, first of all, I guess his logic was they had just gotten Ohtani at the time. They were going to get Anthony Rendon, so I guess he still had some faith in Artie Moreno management to put a team around him. Now, I know you talk about Mike Trout's contract being albatross, but I think Anthony Rendon's contract is a lot worse just because Mike Trout is still a hell of a talent. Anthony Rendon, what the hell happened to you? Oh, wait a minute. You're not going to answer me because no habla inglés.
I mean, just to add on top of the Shohei, I mean, for Anthony Rendon to say no hablo inglés, I was like, oh my God, what just happened? Like, wait, you knew how to speak English before when you signed the contract?
Well, the funny part is he said no habla inglés today. He knows, so you know how to say today.
Right. And also, I forgot, Ryan also on Hitting for the Cycle also said, he brought up a good point, that he was the same guy who said, I'd rather go watch the History Channel. He'd rather go watch the History Channel than watch Major League Baseball games on TV because they're too long. Go look it up. It's a quote.
So
this guy is a asshole in every way, shape, or form. He won the World Series in Washington. They did everything there. This is what happens to these guys. They get their big contract, and because MLB's fully guaranteed, they can't be touched. They can do whatever they want. And it was also reported, I was reading that same story, that when he's home in the offseason, he doesn't allow his family to even discuss baseball.
I mean, I guess because technically it's his work, but I mean, if your work is playing Major League Baseball, if your work is playing a kid's game, I would love that line of work.
But that's what I'm talking about. If I'm playing a professional sport, I feel like I talk about it 24/7.
So, again, it goes to my point that, yes, the contract is an albatross. It's going to take a hell of a lot to move. But at the same time, I think Artie Moreno, this is one of those times where self-realization comes, but it comes 7 steps a little too late.
He's cheap.
That maybe I should... No, but maybe I should have traded Ohtani one of these last 2 deadlines. Maybe I could have traded Trout before the injuries started to pile up. The coulda, woulda, shoulda, and now it's like, I need to get something. I'm not going to get the bang for my buck, but I need to get something to try and fasten the rebuild.
No, you know what's happened? You know what eventually happened because of all this mess?
Well, that's also on top of the fact that Artie Moreno did a takey backseat, that he was going to sell the team and then said, no, I'm just, no more with this selling stuff. So I'm going to give you a better sound effect that describes the Los Angeles Angels. I think I used this one last week too, but here it is.
It's a good point, actually, because if you think about it, Artie Moreno basically said, no hablo inglés, I forgot how to do it. I mean, that's what he did. He's like, oh, I forgot. I don't know how to do that anymore. I don't want to sell the asset that I actually own. I mean, he's up there with the White Sox owner. Why am I forgetting his name all of a sudden off the top of my head? But Reinsdorf and Moreno are like 2 crotchety old men who want to just have control over their franchises. And when they complain, they just complain until people just say, enough! Just stop it already. Either sell the team or don't. And enough. Mike Trout, I think eventually will get traded, but it's going to cost the Angels a lot. They're going to have to eat like 70, 80% of that.
It's like what the Mets did with the Verlander and Scherzer contracts. It's like what the Yankees would have to do if they somehow got to move Stanton, which, by the way, I mean, I'm still throwing out that idea of, I don't know what prospect you would have to throw in, but it's like, hey, we'll take on that Trout contract and we'll throw you in Fawcett. But you have to eat the Giancarlo Stanton deal, which again would not be so bad because when you think about it, the Marlins are picking up 20. So it would be 26 and 27 and the 28 buyout. So
I mean, also Trout has 3 more years on his contract, so that's got to add up in some value. Now, it's not
yeah.
like the NBA where you have to be fair value on each side of the contract, so that makes it a little easier. But
But
I
I
said,
but I also do want to call out. I forgot who it was. It was one of a particular sports writer here in New York who said, "You know what? With all these crazy moves and with how bad the Yankees season has gone, he says that the idea is that after next offseason, the Yankee outfield should be Aaron Judge, Mike Trout, and Juan Soto." Now, first of all, I want to say, absolutely, I would love that. But at the same time, I give you this
Stay
advice.
off the weed.
Do
that's
you really,
accurate.
do you really think they're going to get both in one off season?
Well, they also forgot that they need a certain something that's green to really afford that. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Money. You need a lot of that. And you need the Steinbreners to get out of their own ass and stop profiting on the money and spending it. You really think they're going to take on Trout, Soto, and try to figure out this whole thing with Stanton? They're not going to do that.
Speaking of terrible ownership, the Washington Nationals. So here's basically the summary from I think it's Brittany Grohl who tweeted it out. And here's basically the summary of what happened as she described it. So Strasburg and the Nationals, we talked about it. They had an agreement that they were going to, after Strasburg couldn't overcome his injuries, that he was basically going to retire. They were going to pay him whatever it was still owed to him because of all that he did in Washington and helping to lead them to the World Series. And they were going to give him a whole retirement press conference. They were going to retire his number. And then days before, all of a sudden, it gets canceled. And according to Brittany Grohl, it is basically the Nationals management saying, no, we want to change the terms of the agreement. We don't want to pay you everything. Now, look, I get it because, and I think you'll probably mention it that on one hand, he didn't play out the contract and it was filled with injuries about paying the money that it's just that some of it, if not all of it, should be paid back. At the same time, here's what I say: you already made the agreement. It was announced. It went out to the public and every. No takey backsy. No. You had your word out there.
I mean, you made the contract agreement. I mean, has Strasburg had a massive amount of injuries after that run they had to the World Series and winning? Yeah. He hasn't been the same. He's had I forgot the name of the injury. It's some ridiculously named injury,
It's a nerve condition, I think.
Which basically we knew his career was over as soon as that injury happened.
I think we talked about it. It was something about the nerve along the neck and the shoulder.
Yes.
It's a career ender.
So, but here's the difference. In Major League Baseball, contracts are fully guaranteed. Fully guaranteed. Mm-hmm. Now, why do you now here's the other issue, the other wrinkle to this. You know what the Nationals didn't have?
Was it
they didn't have the insurance on the contract.
So
yeah, I'll do it for you. They didn't take insurance on the large contract. So whose fault is that?
Washington Nationals.
Duh. I mean,
how do you not get these with how much you invest in the major league players today? How do you not get these contracts insured?
I mean, think about what again. I go back to something I said on Football Friday last week. The the A-Rod contract. Can you imagine if you didn't have insurance on that?
Right.
I mean, or the whole Aaron Boone thing, which caused A-Rod to be in a Yankee uniform, all because he was playing pickup basketball and basically ended his career. I mean, I'm sure the Trout contract, even though it's an albatross, I'm sure there's insurance on it. I have to take a guess. There probably is.
I would hope so.
So the Nationals are stupid. They tried to take the cheap way out, and guess what? It burned them. And now they're on the hook for all the money. And I think Lerner, the owner, had to come out and say that Well, like the typical thing when a private conversation leaks. Well, we didn't mean it. It was a private conversation that leaked out. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, if it wasn't meant to leak, then how did it get out?
And there's also the rumor about the Nationals potentially being for sale. And talk about, this is one of those scenarios where you say it's definitely time for a change in ownership.
Yeah. And this has been a rumor for a long time to get the learning company, the whole group out.
Company.
Well, no, I forgot I think that's the name of the company. I don't know. But
so in other words, what you just said, all Washington Nationals game will now be on the TLC channel.
Probably.
But because of the great education that you can get. The education of how not to run a baseball franchise.
Good point. But this is a problem. And Lerner came out and said, we're going to give him whatever he's owed. Oh, really? So who are you fighting in this internal battle? The GM? Mike Rizzo, who just signed a new contract extension?
Mm-hmm. Which, again, you talk about everything he's owed. So you know what that means?
Severance!
Severance!
A lot of severance. So, and by the way, there was also the other thing, like, we didn't really say what was on here, that he was supposed to have a retirement press conference. It got canceled.
Have a jersey number retired and everything.
And then, because they couldn't come to agreement, the Nationals said, no, not today.
Unfortunately. All right. Couple of NBA headlines to get through before we wrap up. Kevin Porter Jr. has been arrested in New York City, allegedly assaulting his girlfriend, who is, I believe it's pronounced Kisra Gondrazik, who is a former WNBA player. And in a little bit of a late development, the Houston Rockets are working on a potential trade. Like, they are willing to offer draft picks in order to get him off the team. The reason is, as you looked up before we started recording, Nick, that basically he's owed so much money during this season that it's going to be impossible for a cut.
Well, so he's owed $16 million. I wouldn't say it's on the upper side like some of these other guys are earning, but $60 million is $60 million.
Yeah, for somebody like him, that's a lot of money.
And you also have to remember the NBA has a cap also. This is not Major League Baseball where we just pay off every contract.
And again, as you advocate so much on this show, it's the NBA. So guess what? Yeah, the scales of justice. Guess what? It has to be
the money.
No, I was gonna say, guess in the middle. It has to be balanced.
Oh, please. I mean, and we were looking at a quote from Adam Silver before that. Essentially, he was saying, like, oh, I know as much as the public does. What do you mean you know as much as the public does?
I guess it's under really tight wraps with the police department.
You're the commissioner of the freaking sport. What do you mean you don't know more than us as the public?
Well, here's my question, Nick. Since he is the commissioner of a major organization, a public sports league, just to kind of put the wrinkle, do you feel like the NYPD has a responsibility to put him in, to have him have like first knowledge of everything?
The commissioner of the sport is responsible for the decision. They need to know what's going on before it hits the public and they get a PR nightmare because they screw something up in the process of it.
Which, by the way, Kevin Porter Jr. got arrested in New York City, and the NBA Board of Governors meeting was going on at that time. So, congratulations on the most ineptitude of timing, Mr. Porter.
Yeah, and by the way, so Gondrazik's brother, and you and I were talking about this. He decided, I'm not going to read this because you and I have seen this, right? If you can go find it on social media because it's out there.
And I totally get his emotions big time. You just got to make sure it doesn't lead you to potential trouble afterwards.
I mean, the one line I'll say is count your effing days. Like, you can't say that. You can't. And I told Tom before we started, I get the emotion. I understand. When your family member, sibling, best friend, whatever gets attacked, you're pissed off. You can't make threats. You just can't do it. You're going to end up arrested, the same as Porter, for making death threats. I mean, Adam Silver's got to get on this immediately and suspend. But here's the deal. Are we going to go through the same thing over and over and over again that we just went through? What is he going to get? 5 games?
I would hope not.
10 games?
I would hope he's placed on some sort of administrative leave.
It's not going to happen. Look what just happened with, the Grizzlies star, whatever. John Morant. John Morant got how many games? 25?
I know. It was ridiculous.
So if he got 25 and he didn't even technically hurt anybody or whatever, what are they going to do with this?
Do you see an NBA team being desperate and trading for him?
No. 0. Now, I'm going to eat those words the same way I said Max Scherzer was never going to end up in New York. But if it just made me think of circus when they said, oh, well, let's try and trade him now after he commits alleged domestic violence. Let's try and trade him and see if that works. That's a good idea.
Which, by the way, again, this was a story I referred to before when we were talking about Mel Tucker and Michigan State. Morale clauses. We need more morale clauses to say, guess what? There goes your pay. You're done.
Okay, but that's not stopping these guys because they've made millions of dollars in the sport. Look at John Morant, who's made millions of dollars already. If these guys...
I know, but it prevents them from making more.
And the problem is because of the rules in the collective bargaining agreement with the NBA that I think the largest fine could be $5 million. First of all, I can't believe they actually collectively bargained the highest fine in the league. I didn't know you could do that. But you're not hitting them in the wallet enough, or you're not doing enough to them to say, stop doing this shit. Stop it. In my opinion, if you commit domestic violence, you should be banned from the league. I'm dead serious. People are going to say, but Nick, you're overreacting. Am I overreacting? What if this happened to someone you knew and someone committed domestic violence on someone you love and is important to you in your life?
Now, obviously, they would have to go through an investigation process, but obviously, if it turns out to be true, yeah, there needs to be higher consequences because that's something that I think we've talked about, Nick. Sports leagues don't do enough of, and that's the punishment for allegations of domestic issues.
And what about the former Celtics coach that's now in Houston?
Oh, what's his name?
Because I can't. I'm looking it up because I can't remember at the moment. Ime Udoka got away with. Oh, I don't want to say that because I'm trying to be careful.
Yeah, but that's a different charge.
But he got away with a lot. Let's put it that way. And now he's back coaching the Houston Rockets.
To be fair,
Adam Silver does not know how to run this league when it comes to punishment.
To be fair, to be fair, coaching the Houston Rockets is a form of penance. It's essentially a form of purgatory.
I don't know if it is because, again, he allegedly committed domestic violence or allegedly did some other stuff, and he's back on the court because Adam Silver doesn't want anybody suspended because,
now it's time for you to praise Adam Silver. The Board of Governors had that vote. We talked about the idea of resting, not being able to rest multiple star players in the same game, and the vote has passed. So there are some details here because here's the question: what identifies what is a star player? And the NBA actually has a set of criteria.
Yeah, so I think they said in the past 3 seasons, you either have had to make an all-NBA team, an all-star team, and you're getting a little bit into semantics a little because you could say almost anybody is an all-star or makes an all-NBA team. So that's pretty much the criteria there. They don't want multiple stars sitting on the same night. You have fans that pay a lot of money for tickets, and if you're going to bench 2 stars the same night, that's not fair.
And national networks that purchase with a lot of money TV rights to broadcast these games.
Go ask TNT back in the day, the Spurs against the Miami Heat, when they sat out Duncan, Ginobili, and Parker, and they got fined,
right.
and and they got fined $250,000. And Popovich was like, well, what the heck is this? Well, you sent out 3 stars.
Good old load management.
I mean, go ask Kawhi about that, too. He's the poster child for load management. But I have to give some kudos, and I didn't think I was going to do it, to Adam Silver, because it's about damn time, after all the negativity and garbage that he's caused and not giving punishments to people. He finally got it right. So now you're not going to see guys, well, if James Harden decides to play basketball this year, playing on the court, or you have Kevin Durant, who sits out every other game. Well, he's always hurt, but or LeBron James decides to sit out a game just because he feels like it.
Well,
I mean,
LeBron is getting up there, but he's still the high talent. Kevin Durant, in my opinion, is overrated. James Harden, you know my opinion of him, because he is overrated to an nth degree. And you know what else he is?
what?
He's fat!
Man, I never thought that would actually get into more use than it actually did. But not that I'm trying to extend our show here for more, but the USA Olympics in Paris, LeBron has come out and said that he's going to get Kevin Durant and Steph Curry and others, and we're going to go compete one last time in the Olympics.
I mean, it'd be cool to see happen, considering like we grew up watching those guys play such, but at the same time, is that really going to end up happening?
I'd rather watch paint dry than watch Kevin Durant play on a basketball court. Okay?
I will believe LeBron's plan when I see it with my own 2 eyes. When I see all those guys on the roster for next year in Paris.
If I'm Phoenix right now, I'd say, hell no, you're not going anywhere. I'm not even allowing you to go play in the local YMCA down in Phoenix.
Here's my question. Would you allow him to go play with the
Guangdong Tigers? Ni hao! Ni hao! Ni hao!
Nope, James Harden already did that, except he came back. But
because the Tigers looked at him and said,
Fat!
oh my God. Mao, we've really improved that soundboard.
I am vicious to James Harden, if you can't tell.
Yeah, oh no, that was specifically for James Harden. But long story short, this is a good rule, because now fans are actually going to get their money's worth out of their tickets when they show up to a game, and you're not going to see teams like it started with, again, like I said, the Spurs. Then it kind of moved on to other teams. Then the Clippers, because Paul George can't stay healthy. Kawhi is never healthy. Kawhi is overpaid. And then you never see Kawhi after the game.
Mm-hmm.
All you get is that laugh out of Kawhi, and that's it. So here's what it is.
One last story here. DraftKings. So we made mention of the Jets game against the Bills that took place on Monday Night Football. Last Monday was September 11th. It is the 22nd anniversary of the terror attacks on the United States on that day in 2001. And so DraftKings displays a never forget message, which is actually a never forget parlay, encouraging you to bet. And the payout comes if the Jets had won, if the Yankees had won, and the Mets had won, which, by the way, first of all, is an FYI, the parlay would have never played out anyways because the Yankees got rained out that day. Second of all, what the hell, DraftKings?
Yeah, I mean, I see this and I was just like, because, again, you and I were talking about this back and forth. Like, you actually said, if this was called, like, the New York parlay,
would people be flipping over it? I could see some people still flipping over it, but maybe not as many.
If you just called it, if it didn't say 9/11 and it didn't say never forget, and you just called it the New York parlay, no one would be saying anything.
And I think the other criteria would be, is this something that you offer, more than once, not just on that day? And you offered other things like the Chicago parlay and such too.
Which obviously is not the case, because I've never seen anything like that.
Oh, I'd say so. They were screwed at this point. But here's my question. How many people did this pass through at DraftKings And how many people gave this the thumbs up? How many people thought this was a good idea?
And it's had to pass compliance too, because every company has a compliance part of their company to check everything when they do stuff, especially in content. They have compliance and checks everything.
Who thought this was excellent? Who looked at this and said, yes, this is absolute genius, bravo.
This is a good idea. Let's go shit on everybody on 9/11 and attach a gambling parlay to it. Now, let's be clear, because just for factual sake, because people check all our content like they will for everybody. We use DraftKings. We use DraftKings to do our Football Friday stuff and everything. But
we're not sponsored by them.
At least not yet. But my point is, you got to call them out when they do something stupid. And the 9/11 Never Forget parlay, you have to be careful. The Never Forget tag is synonymous for, what are we on, 23 years now?
20. We just passed 22.
Okay, 22. But like that phrase will be synonymous forever with 9/11. You can't tag it to gambling. You can't. It's a bad look. And I don't know if you saw what Michael Kay said, again, locally here in New York. Their show is sponsored by DraftKings, and he attacked the crap out of them during the radio show. What does that tell you?
That you done goofed. You done effed up.
He literally said, like, I'm not trying to go after one of my partners, but hey, you can't do it. You can't do it. It's bad.
Yeah, no, not cool. Not cool. Now, here's what I will say that is cool, is that we have reached 200 episodes. We're at 530 subscribers. I also want to give a shout out on my own that MMA Outsiders within its first couple of days has already surpassed 120, maybe at this point 130 views. So I want to just give a shout out of thank you to all those. Hitting for the Cycle reached 100 plus views this week as well. So
130. Yeah.
So thank you to everybody who has supported the Empty the Bench Network. It's definitely picked up as of late, and it'll continue to do so with the madness that is football season. So now, Nick, in celebration for episode 200, and to give us a little pep and such, can I do the outro as Jerry Jones?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of Empty the Bench. So make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you get notified of everything here at the Empty the Bench Network, whether it be those guys at over at ETV Sports, granted they're stupid Giants and Jets fans. I don't know if you're still even a Jets fan at this point again, Nick. MMA Outsiders, Football Friday, and so much more. Make sure to subscribe at youtube.com/ETV Network. Again, they just reached 530 subscribers. So continue to build them up. Build them up, I say, like we're going to build a great Cowboys team. Follow them across the social media platforms, the Facebook, the Instagram, the, whatchamacallit, the Xer at this point, at ETV Sports, Facebook, X, Instagram, and the TikTok at ETV Network. Go to etvpodcast.com for more information about the network and all the blogs. Follow them on their own personal social media accounts at Thomas J. Albano at Morgasen Radio. Maybe you guys can do me a favor and send Dak some nasty tweets his way so that gives him the extra motivation so that way he can actually play up to his potential and I don't have to replace him with Trey Lance or whoever's the next quarterback of this damn team. How about them Cowboys?
Oh, my God. Well, there's not much more I can really say after that. So, for Talladega, I'm Nick Morgasen. We'll see you for another 200 episodes and more of Empty the Bench. Good night, everybody.
Be careful.